Ani, we give thanks to the Creator. We acknowledge the world around us and understand our place within it. We acknowledge and offer our respect to the many nations that walked this land in the past, the many nations that walk it today, and welcome you to the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe. Sacred trust, we are the keepers of this land. She shelters and sustains us. Long after the flesh fails the spirit, we will care for this land. Our drums will be heard upon the wind, our voices in the rustle of the leaf. Our people have a sacred trust for the land, a trust no man may break, a trust that death cannot sever. We were here when you first stepped foot upon this land, and here we will remain long after the last step has disturbed your soil.
As an institution committed to learning, research, and to improving life, we are on a journey of transformative acts towards reconciliation. We acknowledge our role in strengthening relationships with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, and in upholding our responsibilities as treaty partners and citizens. We know there is much work to do here and across Canada, and we are dedicated to taking these next steps together towards a brighter future. We would ask that you please remain standing for the national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
As we gather today to celebrate these graduands, we pause to mark the end of one journey for you. We give thanks for the family and friends who have supported you and walked with you. We are grateful for the classmates, faculty, staff, and mentors who have guided you along the way. May the learning, the growth, and the friendships you discovered here be long-lasting gifts in your life. I invite you, each in your own way, to take a moment of silence to reflect on that for which you are grateful today. As you graduates leave this university and soon embark on a new journey as alumni, may the knowledge you gathered here be joined with wisdom and compassion, that together they might guide you as citizens, leaders, and good neighbors in the contributions you will make to the flourishing of our world. And may knowledge, wisdom, and compassion shape the important and lifelong work of your inner journey as you continue to deepen your understanding of yourself and others. May wonder and curiosity move you to delight in our earth and build common cause with those around you to protect and nourish creation and to create communities where the dignity of all is affirmed, and where each may find a place of deep belonging. May peace be the song in our hearts and in our world. May it be so. I invite you to be seated.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Charlotte Yates. I'm the President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Guelph. It is my great pleasure to welcome you here this afternoon to our first set of in-person convocations in 3 years. How wonderful it is to see you all in person. And I am particularly delighted to be joining the 2022 graduates of the College of Social and Applied Human Sciences. Today is a wonderful occasion, and cherish it and remember it well. This is an opportunity for us to celebrate you, for you to celebrate and to reflect upon and feel wonderful about the achievement that have led you to this day today. It's an opportunity for you to celebrate together, to congratulate yourselves, and to thank all of your friends, family, the community that supported you on your journey and allowed you to be successful today. But also, they will support you and you are prepared for the next steps forward. This is my first official year as the President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Guelph. And I have to say, this year's ceremonies are special for that reason. It is my first time, and it's your first time, I'm assuming, except for some of our graduate students, to graduate. It's rewarding for me that I've been learning a little bit more about you, about your stories, about understanding the work you've done, the studies that have brought you together with your college, with some faculty, staff, and with each other. Universities are all about those connections and relationships. They're not just about what you study. They're those bonds that you form in the course of your degree. They add immeasurably to the student experience, and they serve to better prepare you for the years ahead as you take up your career, become active citizens, and make your contributions to better the world. Taken together, this is what we're celebrating today. I myself am a Bachelor of Arts graduate many, many years ago, so I share a special connection with you. I'm a political scientist by training, so I understand the journey that many of you have made over these last few years. Beyond the connection to your chosen field, I also have an affinity to your college. The College of Social and Applied Human Sciences at the University of Guelph is truly unique, tracing its origins back to MacDonald Institute, which was one of the founding colleges of the University of Guelph. One that led in women's education and an institution that has embraced social progress over many decades. I'd like to take a moment to thank and to acknowledge Dr. Bina Agarwal, who will momentarily become the University of Guelph's newest honorary doctorate recipient. You will hear more about Dr. Agarwal's impressive story shortly, but I will say that she is one of the most important scholars of women's lives in rural areas of her generation. She's a leading feminist economist who has dedicated her life to women's land rights in India. Dr. Agarwal, you have set an example of how knowledge can be turned into action and can be used to improve life. Your work has influenced the policy of international organizations such as the World Bank and ensured for the first time equal rights for daughters to ancestral property in India. It is truly our honor to have you as a member of the University of Guelph family. Now, allow me to turn the ceremony over to Professor Sharada Srinivasan to continue the ceremony. Thank you.
Madam Vice Chancellor, on the recommendation of the Senate of the University of Guelph, it is a great honor to present to you the candidate Bina Agarwal for the degree of Doctor of Laws, Honoris Causa. Called one of the most important scholars of rural women's lives of her generation, or any generation, Dr. Bina Agarwal is a leading development economist who has dedicated her career to women's empowerment. Her pioneering work on gender and land rights, as well as on women's role in forest conservation, the centrality of women's independent ownership in property for theirs and their families' well-being, and the importance of farming in groups as a strategy to empower them is indispensable to understanding and tackling gender inequality anywhere in the world, including Canada. Marked by an outstanding body of consistently high-quality scholarship, Dr. Agarwal's work has influenced governments, international organizations, and non-governmental organizations globally. She led the civil society campaign to help pass the landmark amendment of the Hindu Succession Act of 1956 in 2005 that ensures, for the first time, equal rights for daughters to ancestral property in India. This is testament to the enormous impact of her work and praxis. Her award-winning book, A Field of One's Own, continues to prove foundational in understanding the gender dynamics of women's land ownership. Research excellence, along with policy advocacy and work with grassroots women's groups nationally and internationally, has earned her many honors, including the Padma Shri from India's President and the Officer of the Order of Agriculture Merit from the Government of France. This honorary degree from the University of Guelph demonstrates the university's commitment to recognizing women's central role in the rural economy and Bina Agarwal's path-breaking contributions to improving women's lives. I now ask you, Madam Vice Chancellor, to confer upon Bina Agarwal the degree of Doctor of Laws, Honoris Causa.
By the authority of the Senate of the University of Guelph, I admit you to the degree Doctor of Laws, Honoris Causa. Congratulations, Dr. Agarwal. It is such a pleasure to have you join us here tonight. Pleased to invite Dr. Agarwal to give the convocation address.
Madam Vice Chancellor, distinguished faculty and members of the board, Dr. Sharda Srinivasan, happy graduating students and their proud families, and my family, and all friends. Thank you so much for this wonderful honor and citation. And I especially thank Sharda Srinivasan, who is a former student and now distinguished faculty at this stellar university. I also thank Claire Alexander and all the people who worked so hard to bring me here. It has been an unprecedented 2 years, because today is special to me, not only for this honor, but because it's the first large gathering I have attended after over 2 years of neo-isolation. And it's been an unprecedented 2 years for all of us as we got locked down by a virus. Especially for students, I know it was very hard, separated from friends and extended families. And for the millions of young people living in poverty, unconnected with the digital world, it was harder still. And so many lost loved ones. It is, however, also a time of quiet reflection and meditation. So for instance, I was in India and I began to take morning walks at 6 a.m. when the sun was just rising and the moon was still lingering. I learned to teach and connect with my students in the UK via Zoom, and I came to recognize that even without new research projects, I could write several papers just by using data I had not found time to analyze earlier. But we cannot isolate ourselves from the pain of others and persistent inequalities. In India, millions of migrant workers who were rendered homeless and jobless by the 2020 lockdown had to walk back to their villages hundreds of miles away on foot, evoking images of an ancient exodus. Many of us wrote opinion pieces in Indian newspapers, urgently suggesting ways in which the government could help the migrants, albeit with limited effect. Yet in this unfolding human suffering, new connections also emerged. A quiet community of neighbors and strangers who fed people in need, chased down ambulances, set up support lines for women trapped in domestic violence. We are the lucky ones. We survived and are here to celebrate you, fresh faces full of hope and light. I hope, like me, you will also be motivated strongly to take up the cause of the most disadvantaged. I work, as you've just heard, on rural communities, on the poor and women, highlighting both what they don't have and what they can teach us about how social inclusion and social justice can transform society. Take rural women globally. Now, they rarely own land, the most important productive asset in agriculture. Research, my own and that of others, shows that in India, only 14% of all landowners are women across 9 states. And these figures are 22% on average across 10 countries in sub-Saharan Africa and 11 to 27% in Latin America. And here in Canada, we don't know exactly, but I gleaned from the 2016 agricultural census that less than a third of farm operators are women and very few own the land that they farm. Why is owning land so important for women? It's important for family food security and well-being, for a country's agricultural growth, for children's welfare, and most of all, for women's empowerment. A colleague and I found in our research on Kerala, India, South India, that the incidence of spousal violence was 49% among the propertyless women, but 18% if they owned land, and just 7% if they owned both house and land. Some village women in Bihar in eastern India put it very powerfully when they received land in their own names for the first time after a long struggle. They said, "We had tongues but could not speak. We had feet but could not walk. Now that we have the land, we have the strength to speak and walk." Similarly, I found that including poor women in community forest management significantly improved conservation and biodiversity. So in a recent interview, I was asked, well, how come as an economist you also work on social issues? So my answer was, because economic outcomes are deeply mediated by the social and political. So for instance, if I asked you, why is there such a large gap between men's and women's earnings, what would you say? Clearly, it's not because women are less educated. In many countries, including Canada, more women than men enroll in universities today. Rather, the answer lies in social norms and institutions where women are expected to do most of the unpaid domestic care work in addition to jobs, yet are often perceived to be less capable than men. Looking at all of you, that's clearly not the case. Hence, in the complex world we live in, we need to simultaneously understand science, social science, and the humanities. So I did physics, chemistry, math, and English literature in high school, and I loved both physics and English. But I chose economics for college. Why? Because it is scientific in method, but you can also tell a meaningful story. Do you agree? Now, later, when I worked on women's property rights, I taught myself inheritance laws. When I was researching agriculture, I learned agronomy, and when I focused on forest conservation, I learned about ecology. So education does not end with a university degree. It involves constant learning. Indeed, universities teach us how to learn. Also, in the world of knowledge, I think we should be like detectives, pursuing leads to get to the root of things. And we should try to work on issues that make people's lives better. Now, it isn't always easy. So, for example, inheritance laws in South Asia are very complex. They vary by region, religion, and type of property. So to learn these laws, I sat for many months in the Supreme Court Library in Delhi and even contracted falciparum malaria. But it was worth it, and not just academically. Using that knowledge, I could work with civil society to campaign successfully for the amendment of the Hindu inheritance law to make it gender equal. Today, I'm researching how cooperation in farming, especially by pooling land and labor, can help farmers overcome their production constraints, deal with climate change, and build sustainable livelihoods. In India, group farms are found to be more profitable and productive than individual family farms. Now, till the 1980s, Canada too had many group farms, and mutual support among farmers was common. But today that seems to be waning and land concentration is increasing. So I would say it is now up to you as graduates of this stellar university to seize the moment and to help create institutions based on new values of sharing and cooperation. The COVID experience reinforces the importance of community and connectedness. We need cooperation both nationally and globally for food and health security, for climate change mitigation, for peace, and one might say, even for our survival. So you, my young friends, are the future. If I could say, choose peace over conflict, cooperation over competition, you will then find many fellow travelers reaching out as you seek to forge your own path while walking alongside others. So thank you again for this enormous honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Agarwal, for those inspiring words, and I certainly appreciated all of the connections that you drew for us, connections between the University of Guelph, other parts of the world, particularly India, connections between social sciences, humanities, arts, and connections to our goals to improve life and the work that you've been done, so thank you.